Our third reader is part of the short crossover series we mentioned earlier with the beautiful anthology, a collection of essays, stories, and poems on the subject of beauty from TNB Books, the publishing imprint of The Nervous Breakdown. Her first novel, Currency, received a 2010 Navi Award and was a finalist for the Friends of American Writers Prize. She's a contributor to the literary websites The Nervous Breakdown and The Rumpus. Her short stories and nonfiction have appeared in The Chicago Reader, Knee Jerk Offline, Fish Stories Collectives, and Maxine, a zine she co-founded in the 90s. Please give a warm welcome to Zoe Zolbrod.
So I'm going to read from an essay of mine that appears in this anthology. It's the middle chunk, and I think I'm going to try reading it without some of the essaying about beauty that's stuck in the middle. And if you're really interested in that, you can buy the book from me because I have a few for sale. I was in Pi. Oh, I'm going to interrupt myself. My novel Currency is set in Thailand, and it's about an American woman and a Thai man, and it's fictional. It's a novel. You guys all know that. But, of course, it brought some questions to my mom's mind. That's how I sort of start the essay, when my mom was very interested in what happened to me when I was in Thailand and whether I hooked up with any Thai men, which I had. And so this is about the first one. I was in Pai, a little town in the north of Thailand, and I just checked in at Riverside Lodge. For a couple dollars a day, I'd rented one of the 24 bamboo huts planted in rows next to the Pai River. The managers of this ragtag accommodation were a couple, a Belgian man and an Australian woman who had just had a baby, and I was standing under the communal palapis talking to the new mom when a young Thai man approached us. Ignoring me, he said, "Look," to the proprietor, and he held out his foot, which had been pierced in its ball by a thorn. It was a perfect bloom of a foot, the color of teak, rounded, sturdy yet smooth, free from reddened knobs or yellowed protrusions, its health somehow only enhanced by the circle of black puncture and by the surrounding stain of mercurochrome. I've never responded so strongly to an isolated body part. The moment is preserved in resin for me. I can hold it out to examine at will. I can feel my tongue contract and the saliva pool beneath it. My words rescind in awe. Was it the symmetry, some mathematical formula expressed into concentric circles, ball, stain, hole? Was it the relationship between the colors, in which those exact shades of brown and burgundy scale a perfectly attuned contrast ramp toward the blackest of blacks? The millimeter-sized hole glistened like an iris. Science aside, certainly the posture in which the workaday appendage was held was part of the charm for me. The foot was slipped out of a rubber sandal and lifted waist-high, while its owner stood firm on the other one. His knee pointed down, his palm cradled the foot top, the foot bottom was leveled as if displaying a cupcake. A class full of experienced yogis would find this pose a wicked hip-opener, but under the thatched roof of the palapis it appeared effortless, the wide leg of a fisherman trouser draped just so to reveal a strapping calf. And then there was the attitude, the offering of the foot, the appeal to sympathy and simultaneous lack of self-pity, and the symbolism. Pai was where I became comfortable in Thailand, where I began to identify myself as a traveler. The process might have begun as little as 15 minutes before, and here was a jungle foot, a thorn puncture, an antiquated medical treatment. The black pierce appeared to me a portal to a different world. I looked at this guy's foot for what seemed like forever, and I finally pulled back enough to look at him. He had thick black hair cut in a stylish boy bob, smooth wide cheeks, dense black eyelashes, and black eyes, which I met. I'm sure my desire was absolutely naked, because he looked at me back, and I could almost hear the click of recognition. Low-hanging fruit. The man with the main foot was named Gon. A fledgling trek guide, He lived in one of the bungalows and worked as sort of a houseboy around the place when he was not leading tourists on overnight hikes to hill tribe villages. Meals were eaten communally at the lodge, and Gon helped with every step, going to the market, chopping, cooking, serving. Then he sat down to eat with the guests, explaining night after night what was in the jar of sauce being passed, fish sauce, vinegar, chilies, and what to do if the food was too hot. Eat plain rice to absorb the oils. Don't gulp water that will spread them around. Of course, I wanted to look at him more, but his presence at dinner pained me. I felt the opposite of flirtatious. I felt shy, so embarrassed by my regard of his person that I wanted to hide my head. Several months earlier, my long-term boyfriend and I had broken up, and I spent the span before I went to Asia doing some rebound gallivanting. I outfitted and paraded myself, put on red lipstick, red hot pants, shiny vinyl go-go boots. Men responded, but how many of the finer sentiments can you trust when you've waved a red flag at a bull? My trip was supposed to strip away all that. I dressed like an urchin boy. I hacked off my hair. I carried no makeup. I felt ungainly, and although that was part of the point, at that table in Pi I felt almost ashamed at the inequality between Gon's grace and mine. But he had my number. It was almost obligatory, the way he tossed lines to me at dinner. The effort felt forced. "Chicago," he called out to me across the table once my hometown had been divulged. "How you like spicy food?" "Chicago, do you want some more?" Or sometimes just, "Chicago," so I'd look at him and blush. Was he mocking me in my open lust? "Chicago, we're going dancing. You can come." Gon, the Belgian expat, and about 6 of the lodge's guests piled on 3 motorbikes and buzzed along twisting dark roads to a village festival. Loudspeakers were rigged up to posts surrounding a field, and Thai pop blared to the point of distortion. Gon politely tried to make conversation with me, leaving me flattered but in agony. We could barely hear each other, and our foreign accents and frames of reference limited even the little we could discern. "Do you want to dance?" he finally shouted at me. "But your foot," I shouted back. "Sorry, cannot hear. Better to dance." He hobbled out to the field and I followed. Then he turned to me and started hopping on one foot, his hair flopping and his trousers shaking to the beat. My own foot pulsed with sympathy for what the movement must be doing to his. "It's okay," I wanted to say. "We don't have to talk. We don't have to dance. It's nice of you to pretend to try, but obviously I'll go to bed with you either way." But there was no bed in sight. The night was not over. The village festival's offerings neither quaint nor sophisticated enough for backpackers habituated to the cacophony of India and the world-class DJs found down south. We ended up back on the motorbike, driving further into the hilly countryside to score some opium. We pulled up to a small bamboo hut distinguished from those we were renting mostly by the mounds of garlic piled around it. After Gon and the Belgian muttered negotiations with an awakened resident, we all filed in and a woman emerged from the second room to stoke the fire and hack into it. The man of the house slipped out the door. "To get the opium," my Aunt Gon said. "We wait." The woman didn't meet our eyes. She obviously would have preferred to be sleeping. She obviously hated our presence under her roof. I shriveled. I wondered whose idea was it to come. The opium man looked the part. Blackened teeth, black fingers, clothes like moss and bark. We took turns depositing money on a pile and laying down face to face with him, our heads resting on pillows of garlic as we accepted the stem of a long pipe whose bowl he tended. He packed it, poked it, kept it lit while we inhaled. At first it was awkwardness upon the awkwardness, but my white bull of a self making the floor shake as I moved toward the pipe, my greedy but unskilled sucking performed within 6 inches from a face that never met a bar of soap nor a tube of crest. But you know, it's opium. It's a great high. And pretty soon there was nothing awkward or uncomfortable at all. There was no need for dancing or repartee, and no shame and desire. And when God said simply, softly, "Zoo, come here and lie with me," I leaped like a gazelle across the room and into his spoon. In between pipes we kissed, cushioned, blossoming kisses that lasted, literally I believe, for hours. People left. The fire went out. I was unaware. When I opened my eyes at dawn, His lashes against his cheek were covered with white ash. The curve of the burnished cheek, the echoed curve of the lash, the gentleness of the ash, again with the symphony. The gray light of day only accentuated it. Beauty, and this time I could kiss it. There was more hacking around the fire as others awakened. There was open incivility between the Belgian and the hostess, but it didn't touch me, and somehow Gon and I were granted our own motorbike. I wrapped my arms around his waist, and off we floated through the fog. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. How much are you selling the anthology for? $15. Go buy the fuck out of that book. All right? It's good.